Hey everyone, welcome to Group Text. Join me today to talk about all things Olympic is none other than gold medal winner and, this is my favorite part, Group Text repeat offender, Summer Sanders. 4 Olympic medals in swimming, 2 golds, a silver, and a bronze during the 92 games in Barcelona, as well as NCAA and U.S. national champion and Pan-Pacific World Championship gold medals in 91. You know what? This is just annoying. She is married to professional skier Eric Schlappe and is also a mother of 2 teenagers, daughter Sky and son Spider, as well as the author of the book Champions Are Raised, Not Born, How My Parents Made Me a Success, the 10-year host of We Need to Talk on CBS Sports. Summer Sanders, welcome back to Group Text.
Oh, I love being with you. That was the longest intro. I apologize. Did I send that to you?
No, you did not. You sent us some information, and then when we actually took the list and put it in form of actually not just reading a list, isn't it shocking when you hear your bio and you're like, wow, I really have accomplished something?
You know, it does shock me all the time. And in fact, I just did an interview with one of my college girlfriends, and I just pulled out our picture. But her name is Ann Wicks. Her name is Ann Wicks, and she works for the Bush Center. So she was like, hey, we don't really want to talk politics right now, but we'd like to talk women's sports. Can I interview you? And those are the moments, Melissa, where I sit there and go, oh my God, not only am I like going to be interviewed, but the person interviewing me, we once went to frat parties together, you know, and now she's got this amazing position. So I think it's like shocking. And then it's also quite exciting. It's good to remind us 50 somethings that we were once really cool and have influence now.
We always say to people, do you remember when we were cool?
I know.
It's so funny though. You bring up that you're being interviewed by a friend you went to frat parties with. I have a few friends that are doctors that I went to a number of parties with. And I'm always like, I will climb off a gurney before I let you touch me, because I've seen you, you know, throwing up pretty much in the middle of a dance floor. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, it is. It's those images hold on pretty tight into your brain. Yeah. But it is really cool. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to start right away with the Summer Games, which are kicking off in Paris. Who and what events, other than swimming, are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, we had on our show, that show you were talking about, We Need to Talk, we had Sunny Choi, who is a breaker. That's what we call break dancers. Okay, so they're called breakers, and then break dancing is called breaking. I did learn this. So Sunny came on, I mean, totally unassuming, 35-year-old that's representing the US for breaking. And she taught me a few moves. I don't have any rhythm, Melissa. It's not shocking to learn that. But I think I'm pretty excited just to see that. And then the vibe of it, I asked her, I was like, you know, I do scroll Instagram with those, you know, sort of like dance battles that aren't really battles. It's like just a bunch of really positive people pumping each other up that are dancing in the middle. I've never seen or felt anything more positive than that. And she's like, that's going to be the vibe at the Olympic Games as well. So I feel like it's both venue, like such a vast difference of venue, and then just it being new and fresh. So I'm excited for that. I like all the little sports, not little sports, but like not the big giant sports, table tennis, boxing, taekwondo, fencing. My daughter rode horses for a while, and we're not going to make it out there for it, but I do love all the equestrian stuff, and that's going to be in Versailles. And then we have tickets to swimming and rugby because my daughter played rugby. So, I mean, it's just, I'm excited for fans to be in the stands for an Olympic Games. It's been 8 years. So I think people are busting to go cheer with their country's color on and chant our patriotic songs.
I think it's so great that you keep getting to go. You brought up the new sports and something also called kayak cross, which sounds like something that would happen that people would try on a vacation because they think they can do it. And I think we're all going to get sort of spanked in our own brains for going, oh, I could do that. No, you couldn't.
Yeah.
What do you think about these new sports? People are trying to get their heads around breaking, but it also reminds me when they first brought in snowboarding.
Right. Um, I just have a hard line, and I know I said I'm excited to see breaking. I'm not a fan of judged sports. I made that transition, Melissa, from my sport, which could not have been more cut and dry. You touch the wall, you look up at a board, you see where you first or second or third or 12th, and it could be by 1/100th of a second. You know your placing and your time. If I had to then wait and see if the judges thought that I looked good while I was doing it, I would lose my mind. So I was clearly in the sport that I should be in, but I'm just not a fan of the judged sports. So there are quite a few of judged sports coming in. But I think that all these sports require skill and technique and hours and years of training. So the respect is there. But it is hard to keep up with them. Like breaking just has this one games right now. And, in LA, we'll see these sports that we see all the time, lacrosse. I'm totally going to mess them up. Oh, flag football. How about that, right?
I know.
Women playing football. It'll be amazing. And then there's others that I'm forgetting. But yeah, I think they throw new sports in, see if they stick. The other thing I just have to say is that our Olympism is centered around some very old, like Roman sports that should never leave the Olympic sphere. And they tried to get rid of wrestling a few Olympics ago. And all of us Olympians rallied around that sport to say, I don't know anything more Olympic than wrestling, right? Yeah. This goes back to depictions on cave walls and things like that. So yeah, there are sports that I want to make sure we keep before adding a ton.
So I want to talk a little bit about swimming, because that is your sweet spot, so to speak. Every 4 years, the whole country becomes obsessed with the swim team and the personalities and what they did this year in building the pool in Lucas Oil Stadium. I know for LA, they're going to be building it in SoFi. No, yep. They're going to be building. SoFi. I mean, it's off the charts. Why are we not interested for the 4 years in between?
I'm not going to blame public. Our sport never lent itself for swimmers to be able to battle week after week after week. We love, let's say, basketball and football. Let's just throw those two out there because the players can show up 3 times a week in basketball and every single week in football, and they can give it their all, and every single one of those games matter. In swimming, our sport for the longest time has just required endless amount of training, and then you only get to swim fast twice a year. Get to swim fast in March, and then you get to swim fast again in the summertime, either like July or August. So that's not exciting when you don't see records broken all the time or races that really matter. They tried an international like sort of like a fantasy team where teams were chosen and then the teams would compete against other teams. It just doesn't seem to stick. And so, my goal as a swimmer is to make sure that people show up and remember how important our NCAA model is, right?
Yeah.
So collegiately, just have people show up because those competitions are a whole nother level. And if we can keep these collegiate teams there, then we can build our Olympic team. But without those, for many of our Olympic sports, we can't raise our Olympians. And then let them shine every 4 years. They're figuring it out with NIL, Melissa. And then how cute is this Olympic team with all of their posting on TikTok and Instagram? And you're getting to see personalities. I mean, the flight they took, the seats they had, the charter they took over.
I saw that. They were all freaking out because they were on a chartered plane and all had lay flat seats. When you were going, first of all, were you all shoved on one plane in coach? Mm-hmm. It's like, how did you do that? Especially all the way to Tokyo. I assume that the team pays for that, but who pays for your parents to go?
Oh, our parents pay for them to. I was in 92. So my Olympics was Barcelona. We had a training camp in France right beforehand. Our parents had to find their way over. There's no +1s or +2s. I don't know how it works now, but I don't even think there's a +1 or +2 for tickets. I do think that internationally, collectively, as an athletic unit, not just American athletes, but the international collective are questioning, why don't all these Olympians at least get a couple tickets for their parents? Because it's so expensive. And it's just such a beautiful moment. And it kind of makes the whole Olympic world go round because NBC wants to look at those parents, right? That's why part of the reason why we love that moment so much. Yeah, it's great that we get to see Katie Ledecky win yet another gold medal, but it's really fun to watch her family and her support system in the stands and to get to see that. So yeah, back in my day, we were on just a regular, I don't know if it was United or Delta or what it was, but a regular flight. We didn't know any better. But previous to that, some of the national teams that I made, do you remember this? I know you do. We had a smoking section on our airplanes, right?
Yep.
And our national team would be that very first row after smoking, as if just like a seat with no plexiglass wall separating the two is going to keep the smoke out of our lungs. But that's how we were raised. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love the 70s and the 80s. It would never change not being raised in that time. It was so awesome. But yeah, that's the way it was. And we didn't know any different.
Because this is one of the things I always think about. And I don't even have this written down, but it just popped into my head. So someone makes the Olympic team. Mm-hmm. You don't find out that far in advance. I always think most of the tickets are already sold out. The city is usually booked to capacity. How do the family members, specifically the parents, because I'm a parent, how do they even start to find accommodations? Is there at least a liaison at the U.S. Olympic Committee to call to say, where everything's sold out, what do I do?
Oh, it's not just the Olympic Committee, but then each sport has called a national governing body. So we call them NGBs.
Right.
And each NGB should have that person that is that liaison to try to help a family out. But there's only so much that they can do. So to your point, do they try to plan ahead of time? I mean, Katie Ledecky's family probably did, right?
I would think it's like bad luck. Like I'm such a loon with that stuff. Like my son just went to the national lacrosse tournament and I was terrified to book rooms until we knew for sure. And I had multiple flights on standby to go home, depending on how far we got in the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I'm neurotic.
I'm the same way. I don't know if I would want to know if my parents booked something. I do know that one of the people, how cute is this story, that one of the athletes, her parents, they actually planned their family vacation. So like she was going to go to the Olympics as a spectator already. She didn't plan on making the team. And then, oops, she made the team, but her parents already have this vacation plan. So, it hasn't, I think it's gotten much better, but it's gotten more expensive. It's always been hard to get the world's family of our world's Olympians, right? Because it's not just an American event, to get them access and tickets and everything that they want. But somehow, some way, it seems to work out, whether it's sponsors that give up some tickets because they see this value and not only just allowing the parents to watch this moment, but to be with the parents to experience that moment,
and slap a logo on them. Slap a logo on them at the same time.
Totally. But I mean, Melissa, my dad, my mom, they didn't have a place to stay. They had to stay, I think it was an hour and a half outside the city. And it wasn't until somebody heard that that's what happened to them that they gifted them a hotel room in the city of Barcelona. But yeah, they were just sort of slapping it together. I mean, they had like 7 people in a room. It was like sleep where you can, eat what you can, and then let's go and watch some swimming.
Well, luckily you made it worth the trip.
Yeah, right? Took me a while.
Something else I've always been curious about is specifically in swimming and track and field. The teams are enormous. There's a lot of bodies.
Right.
So are the swimmers that, let's say, only do the qualifying rounds for the relays? Because I do know that they sort of make it so that people aren't exhausted and things like that. Then you have the final relay team. Does everyone get the medal?
Yes. In fact, and we didn't have ours written on it, but this very well could be my morning swim of the 4x100 medley relay. I swam the butterfly, and I did. I got a medal. You don't stand on the podium, but they give it to you afterwards. So yes, I hope that still is the case. How about this one though? I mean, I know you talk about how big the teams are. And yes, they are extraordinarily big. Everybody swims, everybody has a role, and pointing out the importance of relay and allowing those people who are swimming multiple events. And multiple events means they're probably going to make it to the finals, which means they have to run and swim, qualifying, and then semis, and then go time for the medal. And that's just intense. It's physically and emotionally just exhausted. I mean, draining beyond draining. So those relay positions where they're, getting them into the semis or getting them into the finals are vital. And oftentimes those people are the ones that can, be called upon to lift the team up, right? That have a little more energy, and everyone sort of has a purpose for the chemistry of even an individual sport team.
That's what I was going to say. It's a wonderful sort of model to how to be an individual athlete, but still have the team experience, which is so lovely. Again, I was still blown away by that plane. So back in 92, these are such silly questions, but this is stuff I want to know.
Oh, no, these are not silly questions. These are good questions.
Okay. Food restrictions. Everybody now has food restrictions. I can't imagine in 92 there were signs saying, here's your gluten-free, here's that. It was like, if you have a problem with peanuts, don't eat the peanuts.
Right. Yeah.
So,
watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How do you think, do you know, is that how they do it now, that people really understand, don't eat this, do eat that, and they prepare special food for them? Or do you think it was just like when you were there, which is grab your tray, find something you like, basically carbo load, and go?
No, I think it's much more sophisticated now, much more. Because, I say this to people all the time. Training has just gotten more specific now. You couldn't train any harder than my generation and the generation before me. We were training so hard. So they had to shift and get better at other things. Stretching, out of the water training, right? And nutrition and mental health. And all of those things sort of now have created this like phenomenal superhero, super athlete. So yeah, I think that has spread internationally. Once again, it's like American food is only like a tiny little section of that Olympic cafeteria. You're going to definitely have an Asian fare, and you're going to have McDonald's will always have a presence there. And you'll be shocked as to how many Olympic athletes eat McDonald's morning, noon, and night. I think there was even a point where Usain Bolt said that's all he ate. I mean, it's crazy to me what Olympic champions and their bodies can live off of when they're younger, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, they know more, so they know what to look for more. They know how their bodies work. A lot of them are like incredible veterans. So this is not their first rodeo. The Olympic trials was one stop, but they had their sights and eyes already set on what they were going to achieve in Paris. And that's a part of it.
And it's nice to know that the Olympic Committee recognizes that they need to have better food. Because I can only imagine at one point it probably was just like cafeteria food.
Yeah, ours was not exciting. I remember just thinking I cut out sweets before, so I didn't have any sugar leading into the Olympics, like 3 weeks before my Olympics started. And so when I got done, I kept seeing all of these. I'd never heard of these before. I think they were new back then in 92. They were called Magnum bars. So they're ice cream pops with the chocolate on the outside, right? And they had them, and all these athletes were just like downing these Magnum bars left and right. And I couldn't wait until I was done. Swimming is done the first week, Melissa. It wasn't like we had another 12 days left of competition after swimming was done. There were no Magnum bars left. So my point is, Olympians are human. They eat a lot of stuff. And yeah, it's all about good choices. But I think the good choices have always been there. Maybe they weren't as exciting in 92, but the athletes know the value of making those choices and when to make them.
Okay, we're going to get back to mental health in a minute, but we're going to swim around, no pun intended, in the shallow end of my pool for a few more minutes. Okay, you mentioned the unboxing videos.
Mm-hmm.
So explain to me, because I've gotten so confused because there's a lot of swimmers posting.
Mm-hmm.
How many outfits there are. I saw one holding up like a chart, and then more clothes are waiting for them at the venue. How do you even, and do you bring your own clothes? Or
Yes.
are you just like packing your own underwear, sneakers, whatever, because you literally are going to be in all that gear the whole time? Because like I saw that there's practice bathing suits and practice swimming caps and what day you had to wear what T-shirt at training.
Yeah.
And how do you get it all home?
It's so fun. The fact that that's even a worry is like one of the greatest achievements of an Olympic swimmer. I mean, maybe not Katie Ledecky, but even still, even though this is her like 5,000th Olympic Games that she's made, getting the goods, right? And the swag is a huge part of making that team. It's that huge validation moment of, oh my God, I did it. I remember missing the Olympic team in 1988 by 27 100ths of a second. After winning. I was in first with 30 meters to go in that race. And I touched third, so I didn't get that swag. And I remember that feeling of watching the bags and the cameras and the this and that. And I wanted it. So when I finally got it, it's like, oh, it's here. So you have the gear that you get as a part of USA Swimming. So that's the gear that like it brings the team together. Let's go to the pool in unison, wearing the same thing, team spirit, collected. You do bring your own stuff because once the games are over, you get to go wherever you want to. And sometimes you don't want to be wearing USA everywhere, right? Like sometimes you just kind of want to go incognito and go watch other events and you'll have your credential, but you'll wear your own clothes.
Right, because you also don't want to have to be in sweats the entire time. Sometimes you would like to put on a pair of shorts or a little dress or feel like a human.
All of it. All of it. And you're going to go out to dinner with your parents are going to be there. And when swimming is over, that's the luxury of swimming. They are the first week. And then most people will stick around and be an Olympian or a fan of the Olympic Games after that. Right. So yeah. And then you have your team, your swimming gear, and then you have your US Olympic gear. And that's a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's your opening ceremony outfit, your closing ceremony outfit, and other things. And probably included in that are, I don't know, I'm just going to throw it out there. I have no idea, but maybe it's like air tags and sunglasses and cameras or, facial stuff or hair stuff, whatever it is, you're just given a ton of it. And to be honest with you, it is a lot. And a lot of these athletes, at least I was, the first thing I thought of is, oh, my brother would love that, or my mom would love that, or my best friend would love this. So they're just really special. And then you start trading with other countries. And that's when it gets really fun.
Because it seems like now or every Olympics, the amount of stuff that everyone gets is increased. So when I was watching a lot of these videos, it was all just the stuff for the team. And they all kept saying, and there's suitcases waiting for us in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Do they ship it home for you? I mean, now, especially with bag restrictions,
right?
How do you get this home?
Well, here is the value of having the charter flight. I think they just let you take all of that stuff home. But yes, here's the other question. Logistically, because you and I are moms, and so we plan all vacation to the nth degree. Are you the same as me?
Oh, yeah.
Every single bit. So you're sitting here going, wait a second, I'm over in Paris. My family's over there. Shouldn't we go and travel around afterwards? I mean, let's go and relax someplace by the beach and, have a moment to ourselves. So now what do I do with my luggage? Now where does it go if I'm not going to take the charter home? And that would then be the problem. But most all these athletes, they're probably heading home. Many of them are just going to go back to their sophomore, junior, senior year in college. Some are going to go back to their junior or senior year of high school. They're going to come back to parades in their hometown. They're going to come back to those signs at the airport, with the TV cameras and all of that, just love. And I do have to, I know we're going to go to mental health, but I do have to just say one of the other values of having a human being, a part of the Olympic rings on the American side, Lily King, is that she drew attention to the value and the excitement. And I'm going to pull it out here of a bronze medal. And when she got a bronze, everybody assumed that maybe she was sad or something like that. And she is like, it is a bronze Olympic medal. This was my first medal in 92. And when I won this, I late at night made my way back to the Olympic Village, and I had teammates lining up just to hold it. They didn't care the color. They just wanted to feel the weight of it. One in particular was a guy named Jeff Rouse, who went on to win the 100 backstroke. And I remember him sitting there with his eyes closed, and he just wanted to feel the weight of the medal. So just coming home, being an Olympian and representing your country is just such a special moment. And then they'll go pick up their bags.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you ever let your kids take those unaccompanied to show and tell? Your daughter you trust, your son forget it. It'll be somewhere in the back of his locker.
You know what? My son I would trust. My daughter would totally forget about it. She would, who knows, that like we'd have to retrace those steps like nobody's business. I've taken them to so many elementary schools. This one, the top has broken off. One of my gold medals, I mean, they've all been broken. I don't know if you can see all the dings in it.
Dings.
They've been broken and dropped. And I say it's, they have personality because they've lived a life and they haven't just sat in my sock drawer and, been in isolation.
So let's get a little into mental health.
Yes.
And pressure. And it takes me back to start anyway with the overwhelming interest every 4 years in swimming. Mm-hmm. And the pressure as a unit that particular team is under to produce, not even the stars, because we have been historically so dominant. Mm-hmm. How do they deal with it? I would think, again, I go back to 92, people didn't talk about this. And recently, in the last few years, Michael Phelps talked about it. Mm-hmm. How important has it been with the conversation like that, not just in a general public sense, but within the swimming community?
It has been incredibly important. And I do want to highlight the fact, first of all, Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Allison Schmidt, to name a few, Coco Gauff, all these amazing athletes have spoken about how some days they're awesome and some days they are awful. And mental health is a constant ebb and flow. We know that so well as women and as moms. But I think the difference is that people are listening. I really like to remind people this has been talked about. My niece sent me a video of the interview I did right after I won my gold medal, which was at the very end of my competition. So bronze, silver, sixth place, gold in a relay, but then individual gold was very last day. And I got out and I was so relieved. That's the first emotion I felt. And then the reporter asked me, "Oh my God, you must be so excited. What are you feeling right now?" And I said, "That was the most stressful week of my life, and I never want to go through it again." That was the first thing I said. I don't even remember saying that. She sent it to me. And I went back to Stanford and I wrote a whole paper about the Olympic blues. I wrote another paper about the chosen one, and how I wouldn't want to change that position in any way, but the weight of that. And that's sort of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We are one of the chosen sports. But we're listening now. And then we have all these phenomenal platforms that if you use them correctly, you can change things and in such a beautiful way. And we as a public are listening because now everyone kind of has this connection to mental health. And like we can now say, I get that. my son dealt with that, or my husband dealt with that, or we have some connection to it. So there's a relationship there that's so genuine and authentic. And I think it can only help athletes. So let's just get to, I know I've babbled on about this, but
no, I'm a mental health and suicide prevention advocate. So it's very interesting to me, and having raised an athlete, I feel like I have a little insight into that.
Yeah.
So that's why I find what you're saying so interesting, because people didn't talk about it. And suddenly in the last 7 years, basically, it's become a huge topic.
Yeah. We're talking and we're listening and we're understanding it more. We're open to like, okay, my hero can also be highly imperfect. And I'm good with that. Actually, it makes me love them even more and connect to them even more. I don't think the pressure has changed from 1992 to 2024, because inherently the pressure, as you've probably felt with your son in sport, is put on the athlete by themselves, right?
Yes.
That is it. Yes, we can take in all this chaos if we choose to and whatever, but what drives us and what can drive us good or bad is the pressure that we put on ourselves. And that really hasn't changed. Yes, social media has complicated things, but I find that to be a totally separate situation than competition itself. So I love the fact that the USOPC and the IOC, I think, to my knowledge, really looks at the mental health side and the holistic athlete and tries to support the athletes with therapists and options and these support dogs and relax stations. And for moms, a lactation station and a nursing room. It's like, wow, we have evolved so that we can really, really see who this person is, behind the Speedo and the goggles and all that they're a human being, and a human being first and foremost. So, and a beautifully imperfect human being.
I think that probably helps. Being able to talk about it obviously helps relieve the stress. And it has nothing to do with sports, but I have heard it mentioned a few times, especially about sports, that we're at a tipping point. Mm-hmm. That instead of it being, I'm getting help and I have my tools and I have my therapist, that it's becoming an excuse.
Oh, well, I mean, who knows?
Each person's individual.
Each person is individual. And here, if you've ever gotten therapy, and I've gotten therapy, the hardest thing about deciding to get therapy is finding a therapist, right? Where do I begin? Who do I talk to? Well, now I think since COVID, really, everybody has a buddy that they can call and say, I need to talk to somebody. Do you know anybody good? And then that number leads to, okay, well, I'm not taking new patients, but this person is. Go talk to this person. But that's the hardest thing to do. And so that is a door that the USOPC is saying, hey, you can only train so hard in the pool. You can only eat the foods that agree with you, and to a certain point. But we've barely tapped into the strength and the superpower that is lying right here. So even if you think you're just doing fine, right? And if you have the guts to go for it, here's the door, and we're going to help you sort this out. But I think you're right, Melissa. Everyone is different. There are some athletes, they don't want to know how they can possibly be at their best, because then if they aren't the best, where does that leave them, right? So they always like to have just a little nugget. Well, I could always improve on this, but I'm not ready to do that yet. I'll just stay right here in this little bubble. But I love the fact that for the most part, that's become the norm, thanks to some really brave athletes.
What I'm finding also, was finding in college sports, which you obviously can identify, is a lot of the coaches now, even the hard-ass ones, maybe it's the assistant coach, are kind of doing mental health check-ins. And I found that especially during COVID with athletes, specifically like my son, and he was through it, but the coaches would always be like, how are you doing? Because their way of relieving stress was through their sport. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're seeing that in colleges now is extraordinarily important.
I think you're seeing it in smart coaching and certain teams and certain schools, but I don't think it's as mainstream as I would like to see. And I say this because, as I said before, I went to Stanford and I took my daughter back there for an event this past fall. And she was a rugby player. And at Stanford, they have club rugby. It's not a varsity sport. So we went and met with the club coaches. And this is a different, club is different than varsity. I walked in there and it was so inviting and so wonderful. And these coaches were phenomenal on the rugby scene, right? And amazing with their athletes. And they said they have a color-coded system. I might get the colors incorrect, but basically it went like this. They come in and they'll give us a color. And there are three choices. Green means I have no problems in the world. I am good to go. Let's go crush this practice. He said, as a Stanford athlete, that rarely happens.
Yeah.
But most times it's gray, and gray is like, I'm stressed, but I'm ready to work out and I want to give it all here, but I'm tired and I'm stressed. And then the third one is red. And red, he says, we don't see that often, or we don't hear that often, but when we do, that's when we just pause and we sit down with them and we check in with them. But that's like, listen, I am in over my head. I cannot handle this right now. I don't even know why I came here. I need help. And so that's when they sit him down. I shared that with every varsity coach that I spoke to during that visit, which was quite a few. And I'm like, you need to go check in with the rugby club coaches. Like, this system it seems simple and inviting and awesome. So I think you're right, but I would like to see more coaches checking in like this.
And not to gloat for a moment, since my son went to Cal, our rugby team is actually better than the Stanford team. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, yes.
Cal rugby is off the charts.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
Like constantly winning. Yes.
I think it's the one thing I can sort of lord over you, which makes me very excited. Yes. Let's talk about the show. 10-year anniversary.
I know. We need to talk.
How did it start?
It was a group of women in sports, directors for the NFL, like ones of their kinds, right? Trailblazers. And they wanted to have a presence. That was all women, not just talking, not that it's bad, but not just talking about our awesome women's sports, talking about sports. Women who love the NFL, women who love the NBA, women who love the WNBA. So they got us together. It was 12 of us at the beginning, from Andrea Kramer, who's, NFL Hall of Famer, right? Leslie Visser,
Hall of Famer.
My cohort in swimming, Dara Torres, and then you have Swing Cash, who just was promoted to VP of basketball operations for the Pelicans. Lisa Leslie, Amy Trask, who was one of the first president's executives in the NFL with the Oakland Raiders, and Al Davis. So just a group of us that brought different things to the table. And every week, at the time it was a weekly show, 4 of us would come on and we get to talk about things. And it was it's evolved. Now it's once a month, but we show up at the Masters and the Super Bowl and March Madness. So the men's tournament, we're not at the women's tournament right now because that's owned by ESPN, but we try to show up at all the big events, and then we get to just have our nuggets of knowledge thrown out there. And it's really a joy for me. I like to say, I don't spend a ton of time working these days by choice. I dabble in it, and it's the best dabbling choice I've ever made.
Well, anytime you need someone to fill in, I can represent sports moms.
Awesome.
Who are also, by the way, 2 years winning my family fantasy league in the NFL. I'm just gonna put it out there. Uh-oh. Nice. That's your family fantasy league belt.
It is not. It is a family that includes female women and all women's fantasy football league with like women who are professional fantasy footballers. These are like the cream of the crop in sports television and sports radio. And they must have not been on their A game first year because I won it first year.
I love the fact that you guys have a belt we found these these fantasy league. We found these fantasy league championship rings.
Yeah.
So you can get them in the color of your team. So I have Eagles ones.
Oh, are you an Eagles fan?
Huge.
Yeah, I'm a Bills fan. So I won this 3 years ago, I think, off the back of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. So I really should send it to them, but they have enough.
They got enough. They got enough already. Oh yeah, no, I'm still not over Jason Kelce retiring. So,
yes.
Yeah, I'm not okay.
I was with Kylie Kelsey. I wasn't with her.
Oh my God.
I know. I was sitting next to her at the NCAA Women's Final Four. And I was so cute. And I asked her, could I get a picture with her? And she was so cute. And she was with her niece or her cousin. I think it was her niece, who was a water polo player. So it was just this cute exchange. She's so just normal, right?
Yeah.
Normal and wonderful.
I was at an event for QVC for their Q50 ambassadors, and Donna Kelsey is one. And I pretty much stalked her for 2 days, like to the point where security was going to have to remove me because I said, you are the gold standard of sports moms.
Yes.
Like seriously. But I did stalk her, which, her
she
and Billie Jean
loves it. Are you kidding? She loves that she's got a stalker like you.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know what to say. I just wanted to be in her presence.
Yeah.
I'm like, tell me everything you know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous that you got to meet Kylie Kelsey.
Oh, and she's gorgeous. She's stunning. And it was so simple. She was wearing this, I wanted to ask her what it was, but it was this black blazer that was longer. And then she had these cute glasses on. I don't know. She was all buttoned up and cutesy. Oh, look at you. Oh, are we doing this? Okay, hold on.
Oh, I can do one better. Do you have a garden gnome?
No, but do you have Josh's Jack's cereal?
No. Oh, God. Okay, this is going to be a separate competition offline. Do you have a big head Anna Wintour?
Oh, my God. Well, no, you win.
I win that one. Oh, now this is game on with ridiculous stuff.
I have to just tell you really quickly because you brought up Anna Wintour. People always ask me, what was the best thing or advice that you got from doing Celebrity Apprentice? And
I forgot we both did that.
Yeah. But your mom came up to our cast. I don't know, it was maybe episode 3 or something. And she said, listen, they're going to tell you that you can't take the wardrobe. Take the wardrobe. You can take this wardrobe. And Holly Robinson Pete and we were like, oh, we're taking this wardrobe. So at the very end, we were like coats and dresses. Yeah. So talk about good swag. That was second to making the Olympic team was that.
Okay. If we're on clothing, I'm going to double back. Yes. Did you like your opening ceremony's outfit? And what was it that year? Because sometimes I look at these things and I go, oh my God, they must hate them. I just saw at the team announcement for gymnastics, they came out in those motorcycle jacket things. As excited as you are about making the team, did they look at that and just go, I really have to wear this?
Ours was not cool. And I didn't even walk in the opening ceremony because I had to compete the next day. So a lot of the swimmers won't walk.
Right. Well, no, this year, it's in LA that swimming is going to go second.
Oh,
after
is it
track
really?
and field because they have to build the pool.
Oh my God, I just learned that. And my mind is blown from that. That's amazing.
Well, because Lucas Oil did it for the trials and they thought, oh, let's do it. They're going to do it in SoFi.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Your
so
outfit.
ours were you should look them up because they're really bad, but they were this fuchsia or hot pink blazer with shoulder pads because it was 92, remember? And then a pleated, but poorly length of a skirt. It was a blue with some sort of Olympic rings, maybe just random rings floating around the entirely pleated skirt that I think went to right above the knee because why not? And yeah, I don't think it was our best opening ceremony outfit in 92, but you know, I don't know. Yeah.
That's fair. Do you
Yeah.
have an Olympic rings tattoo?
No, I don't. I don't know why. I don't. I think at that time,
It wasn't a
um,
thing.
it wasn't really, I mean, it was a thing. I did think about getting it. But right, people get tattoos like this nowadays, and they're all fine line, and it's quite easy, and you can find a tattoo place on Instagram, and it's whatever. Yeah, I thought about it, but I don't.
You got to do it before you die, though. You need to be buried with it.
Okay, I'll put it on my list. And my
Yeah.
husband's an Olympian, so we could go and get it done together.
Oh, what year was he an Olympian?
He was 94, 2002, and 2006.
Okay,
So,
which was more pressure, competing or watching your husband compete?
well, first of all, watching a ski racer compete, forget about it.
It's
It's
terrifying.
intensely terrifying. I mean, terrifying on many levels. Nerve-wracking because you want them to do well. Terrifying because you also don't want them to, like, break their back, which he has done before. So you want them to come out safe and feel good about themselves. Yeah, it's terrifying and nerve-wracking.
Which is worse, standing on the block or waiting for him to cross the finish line?
Waiting for him to cross the finish line. Yeah, standing on the block is fun. It's the beginning of potentially the most exceptional moment. I loved competing. It's why I always say that to parents. First of all, I just said this to my friend. Slow down. Greatness takes time. So your kid needs to find greatness, or greatness needs to find them, but it'll happen. And if they don't have an intense joy for their sport, that should be more concern than them not qualifying for a competition or the travel team or something. But if you can help usher in this intense joy for the sport and competition and the whole package, then your kid's winning.
Summer Sanders, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Go Eagles.
Cue the fanfare because soccer superstar Carli Lloyd is my very special guest today, here to talk about her amazing career as well as the Summer Olympic Games, which kick off today in Paris. Carli is a two-time FIFA World Cup champion in 2015 and 2019, two-time Player of the Year, 2015 and 2016. I'm running out of air, as well as Olympian 4 times, Beijing, London, Rio, and Tokyo, bringing home gold medals in 2008 and 2012, a bronze in her last Olympic Games in 2021, where I know we all hate admitting this about ourselves. She was the oldest woman soccer player to compete at the age of 39. Carli Lloyd, welcome to the group text. Isn't it crazy when someone else reads your bio?
Yeah, I get really uncomfortable. I'm like, let's just shorten it a bit and move on.
Why? For me, it makes me feel better. Like, wow, I have actually accomplished something. So we're going to get to the Olympics in a minute and your incredible career. But I like to always start with the most basic, which is, where did you grow up? And for you specifically, how old were you when you first stepped on the soccer field, and was it love at first kick?
Yeah, so I grew up in Delray, New Jersey, which is a very small town in South Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia. Blue collar mentality, working class neighborhood. The street that I grew up on was at the corner. We had a corner house, and so we were kind of connected with so many different kids in the neighborhood. And so I found myself, I'm the oldest out of my siblings. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. I was always outside playing. My parents signed me up for numerous things to try out, which I'm very grateful for and thankful for. A lot of sports. They signed me up for soccer. I did basketball. I swam for our local swim team. Did softball. And then my mom also signed me up for dance and piano, which I absolutely hated. So I think it was a strong indication that I'm going to be a sports girl. And once I started playing soccer at the age of 5, I mean, I don't remember, that far back, but from what people tell me, I had something special. I loved it. I think you can kind of get a gauge whether or not a child is into something or not. And yeah, it was love at first sight. It was my first love. And coming home from practice, I would always be, juggling a soccer ball or kicking it up against the curb in front of my house. So I think that was a very early indication that I loved it. But I just love sports as well.
Right. I'm sure your mother was thrilled about the damage you did to the lower half of the walls.
Yeah.
Because like my son plays lacrosse, and I was always like, please shoot away from the windows.
Yes.
That was always like, do not do that. And you cannot play wall ball indoors.
Yeah.
So from the mother's point of view, I get that. Because at 5, and when you start, and I know this when my son did, pee-wee soccer, which out here, I don't know what it's called, there is beehive soccer. Because everyone swarms around the ball. It's hard enough to get people or kids going the same direction. Did you always kind of know which way to go? Did you ever, especially when you were younger, think, oh, well, I don't understand why everybody keeps going the wrong way?
Yeah. I wish, my parents, we talk about it now. I think that they were, in the moment mostly, and sure there were some, camcorders that they had, and it was like running out the door, we're going to film this game with Carli, and then the battery's dead. And so I was like, I've said to my parents, I wish that you had some younger footage of me, and it is what it is, but it would have been really fun to kind of see, what I was like. But, my parents say that, I was tenacious, and, I wasn't really afraid. I think when some kids get involved in soccer, they're a bit timid and they don't want to get hit and a little scared of the ball. But from what I've been told, I kind of picked it up pretty quickly. And, it was beehive soccer at first. Everybody's just all huddled together, don't know what they're doing. They try to tell you the positions, and everybody's out of position. So, as things evolved, obviously it got better, but, I just was always around the soccer ball. And, that's like my fond memory of just always practicing.
Yeah, there's always one kid that just sits down on the field.
Yeah.
Like just parks it. You played all over in your local team and first team all conference and all that kind of stuff. How early did Rutgers look at you?
It's obviously a lot different now. There's some rules. So I kind of committed to Rutgers late in the game. So I believe it was sort of at the tail end of my junior year of high school. But I had been getting letters from colleges, and there was an official time where you could take official visits. I think you could have 5 visits to different schools. So, Rutgers was close to home, is about an hour away. There was a new coach that was coming in that would be my first recruiting class. So I know that he was very interested and had seen me at the club level and all of those things. So they were, like other colleges, they were staying within the parameters of what they could do back then, which it's changed dramatically now.
You ended up being not only successful, but incredibly successful. The co-captain of the women's national soccer team, and you got the name Captain America. How obviously all this set you up for that role, but it had to be difficult being kind of, and I'm using the word in quotes, the boss and the teammate. Because a lot of times there's friction in those two roles where you have to be one person on the field and another person off the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think my captain role was certainly not something that I sought after or thought that I would ever, wear the armband for the U.S. national team. It was sort of the timing of it all. In 2015 at the World Cup, Christy Rampone was our captain and leader, and she was not playing a lot of minutes, so she was on the bench. And, Abby Wambach was kind of the second in charge that would usually wear the armband. So the next one in charge, or, quote unquote, with the most experience, and was me. So I didn't really fully feel like I was a captain of the team, like that was Christy Rampone and Abby's duty. And I was just wearing the armband, and I was just trying to lead by example in that moment. And then when they came on in the final game in the 2015 World Cup against Japan, Abby Wambach had come on first. So I passed the armband to her. And then Christy Rampone actually was able to get on and get some minutes in her, last major tournament as well. And then Abby passed it on to her. So it was a pretty cool moment of just kind of the passing of the armband. And then I was selected as captain in 2016, actually co-captain with Becky Sauerbrunn. But I didn't really feel like the coach at the time, Jill Ellis, really wanted me to be captain. It was sort of like I was just the next one there. And that didn't fulfill me. I didn't change as a person. I think I've always been somebody that leads by example. I'm not a rah-rah leader. I'm not somebody that's going to get in your face, but I am somebody that's going to lead by example on the training field, on the game field, and hold others accountable with their work ethic as well. And just, trying to do my best with treating everybody, the staff, players, coaches, with respect. But I didn't really feel truly valued at all, being a captain of the U.S. Women's National Team. I didn't really feel like I had a coach that truly wanted me in that position. And so it was a little bit of a different position. And I think that I just stuck to my morals and stuck to what I do best, and, tried to kind of take that role. Didn't try to be anybody that I wasn't, didn't try to be a different leader. But it's also a little bit different when, you don't really feel like you have that support. You just feel like you're next in line, and here's the armband's going to go to you, and whoever has the most caps on that particular game day that's playing is going to be the one to wear the armband. So it was a little different, I would say.
I would say, and you're too politically correct and measured with your words, that's really fucked up and can mess with your head and really rough on the ego. But that was when you got the hat trick.
2015, yes.
Yes. So, but I'm such a different person, is I would be like, really? And you didn't want me? Here's one, here's two, here's three. Yeah. All in a row.
Yeah, I remember being asked by Jill Ellis if I wanted the armband at the 2015 World Cup, or if I didn't, then she had somebody else like next in line. And I'm like, it's a very odd question to ask. Like, of course I would want the armband. I mean, who wouldn't want to go out there, captain of the team, representing your country on the world's biggest stage. But that's why I just did what I needed to do, tried to help the team, and look, not every situation you're in with bosses, with coaches, with anything in life is always picture perfect. And all I could do was kind of control what I could control. And that's all I did.
See, in my head, I'd be like, oh, so you want me now? But again, let's pivot and talk about the Olympics. Where were you when you found out you had made your first Olympic team? And who was your first phone call?
Oh, gosh.
I love the fact that I'm talking to someone who's like, oh, geez, first Olympics. Which one was that?
I know, it all blends together. You know what? That was in 2008. I don't know if it was probably a phone call from Pia Sundhage, our coach at the time. And, you could kind of get a sense up to that point, when the roster was being announced, whether you're going to make the team or not. But I had always dreamed of it. I mean, I watched the 99 Women's World Cup team, play. I went to a game at Giants Stadium. It was a packed house. And that changed my life forever. Watching those women compete on the world's biggest stage and saying to myself, I want to play in World Cups, in Olympics. And you, as a fan, you turn on the Olympics every summer, the Summer Olympics, obviously. And, you just get captivated by the stories and by the highs and lows of these athletes. And so it was really, really special to get that call. And, I probably told my boyfriend, Brian, at the time, we're now married, and my parents and everybody, but it was a huge deal. I mean, everybody in my town was really excited. And so it was a special moment, especially coming off of a really disastrous 2007 World Cup. Our coach got fired, and then we had a new coach. So it was sort of a new chapter where I felt really a part of the team. I was playing a lot. And yeah, it was a really special moment.
Okay, I'm about to get really, really shallow, so prepare yourself. Which was your favorite Olympics and why? Because you were in a bunch of different areas.
Yep.
Which one would you say, that was the most fun? And I don't mean like playing wise, I mean just the experience.
Mm-hmm. I would have to say 2012 London. London's an amazing city. The way that they did such an incredible job with the Olympics. We played in all of Premier League stadiums, which is a massive deal, as a soccer player to be able to play in some of those iconic stadiums. The nature of the Olympics, our coach Pia was still coaching at that time. I had gotten benched right before that Olympics, didn't think I was going to see the field at all. And then Shannon Box gets injured in the first game, 16 minutes in, and all of a sudden I'm coming off the bench, having to, sprint into the game, and I never left the field after that. And so on and off the field, it was just such an unbelievable experience. I mean, getting to experience the athlete, the village, it's different. I don't think people understand it's different with soccer because we have to play 6 games in a very jam-packed schedule. We actually start our first game 2 days before the Olympic Games start, and the opening ceremonies. So we never get to go to the opening ceremonies, and
that's because you have to save your legs, right?
Well, we're usually in a different area than the actual city. And so, we usually put on the opening ceremony outfits, and we put it on television in our hotel, and we act like we're a part of it. But then you have to get to the pretty much, I believe it depends. There was a few Olympics where when we got to the semifinal, we stayed in the athletes' village. Otherwise, you have to get to the final to be able to stay there and kind of experience it. And it is different. You get to go to the cafeteria and get your food. It's a little bit of a different, living situation than us being in a hotel. But you get the whole experience. You get to see different athletes, and really kind of take it in. So yeah, I would say 2012 was pretty special. 2008 was also pretty awesome. 2016 was probably my least favorite.
Why?
It was a little.
Was that Rio?
That was Rio. Yeah, we didn't do well at all. I think that was mostly part of it. We never made it to Rio. So it got challenging. We were actually in Manaus, the jungle, which was like extremely hot and humid. So it was just it was a tougher tournament. And then, Tokyo was 2020/2021 was COVID, and there was no fans. I mean, if there were fans and they could have done it properly, not under the COVID circumstances, it would have been probably an unbelievable Olympics. So yeah, all 4 were different, and all 4 were, special in their own ways.
It's so interesting that you literally can remember. I keep listening to you talk, and you remember every minute of every game.
Well, not every minute of every game, but different
the highlights
pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. You've talked in this conversation quite a bit about mental health without using the words mental health. Because at the time it was not an open topic. when you were competing as it is now because of Simone Biles and a few others. Are you happy that now this is an open conversation? Or do you feel like it's distracting from the sport?
I am happy, but I also think that it can be used as a detriment a bit. I think that every athlete, every person, every human being deals with emotions and emotional roller coasters throughout your life. And that's just the nature of it. And I think that there's no time in your lives where everything is like perfect and you're feeling perfect. And maybe you are, but then, there's going to be another emotion that comes in. And I think that I never want to see mental health used as a crutch in circumstances. I think that it needs to be used in a positive manner, and it shouldn't just be this, this excuse or this train where everybody jumps on it and says, I can't push through this because mental health and it's hard, like you have to determine your situation. And is it something where you do need help? Is it something where you do need to speak up? Or is it something that you can get through it? And it's okay to feel depressed and to feel anxious and all of these different emotions. I think that that's how you get through life. That's how you learn and you grow and you push yourself to new boundaries. So, I think that there's a balance to it. And I think nowadays, like it's like one extreme or the other, and there's no kind of that middle ground that we can get to. So I think that everybody's situation is totally different. I think that it's really good that people are speaking about their situations. I mean, it's no different than, I've spoken so much about my career throughout the years and the ups and downs and the highs and lows and on all of the emotions that I have felt. And so that can be categorized as like, a mental health situation, but I've been able to climb myself out of those certain situations. And I think that that's the key is knowing when you can push through something and knowing when, okay, this is more serious than I envisioned. And I think we also need to teach this younger generation that life is hard. And you can't just say, well, this certain circumstance, my mental health, this, that, and use that as an excuse. So that I don't like, where it's like easily accessible to just use that, because I do think that people need to be able to gut through certain situations in a healthy manner.
I cannot say that I do not agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I'm a mental health advocate and the chair of the board of a major mental health of D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Services and suicide prevention. And I agree. It's the wonderful thing is that it's now an open conversation. And it sounds like you were having that conversation before it was, and I hate to say okay, but normal to have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so healthy and probably why your career lasted so long. Now, something else that's about to happen to you that is going to last a very long time is you married your first love, Brian Hollins, who is a golfer. He waited 15 years to propose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are a patient woman. At what point were you just like, dude, enough, like in or out? How did he propose?
Yeah, I mean, everything in life is timing. And I think that there's so many people that rush into things just for the sake of, I want to be engaged, I want to show that I'm engaged. I want to show that I'm married. We were living apart for majority of our relationship. It was, 2 years in high school or a year and a half in high school. Then I went off to college. He was down in Florida for college. I'm traveling the world, doing the sport that I love. And, we had a few detours within our relationship, and, you have to make sure that you have a solid foundation before you jump into something that, in my opinion, is going to be a forever thing. And, loads of people, in our circle were like, when are you guys going to get married? You've been together forever. And I just think when the time is right, the time is right, and it's no different when, people go to college and then it's like you get a job and then it's like, okay, when are you going to get married? And then you get married and then it's like, when are you going to have kids? And, all of these different things. And it shouldn't be on anyone's timeline but yourselves. And it was the perfect time for us to get married, to get engaged. I feel like we worked out so many different things. We went through, I mean, being high school sweethearts, you go through almost every phase of your life, except for the young adolescent years. And so it was the perfect time and the perfect moment. And, now we're expecting our first child. And as long as that was of a wait, it's like, it's the perfect time, and I think that, that's just the beauty of what's meant to be. And, our relationship is very strong. We have an amazingly strong foundation, morals, values, we're on the same page. And I think going into parenting, that's, one of the most important things that you should have.
So is the baby kicking or swinging?
I know right now there's a lot of, I'm like 24 weeks. So there's a lot of movements going on. Yeah, I can't quite pinpoint if it's the swinging or the kicking yet.
Like, oh God, what have we made? Whoever is going to be a great athlete. So, or the joke will be completely unathletic, like just a study in recessive genetics.
Should be very athletic. The baby should be. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk the current Summer Olympics. What are you most excited to watch?
Well, our U.S. women's national team. I think, this is going to be a new, hungry, just identity of a team that I think we're all going to see. Emma Hayes, the new coach coming in, and this being her first major tournament. A lot of these players are young and don't have a ton of experience. So I'm really excited to kind of watch them play. I think that, they're heading into the right direction. But it's going to be just awesome to just be home and enjoying summer in New Jersey, and then, being able to turn on and watch the Olympics.
Other than soccer, what are you most excited and golf? What are you most excited to watch? Like, I wasn't at home the other night, but I still recorded the women's gymnastics finals because I wanted to see Simone Biles and Suni Lee. What are you going to either go back and watch or watch on Peacock? What are you most excited to watch?
I would say gymnastics, swimming. I do really enjoy swimming. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to catch as much as I can because, like I said, other than Rio Olympics, for the last 4 Olympics, I have not watched really much coverage at all, unless we caught some coverage in the different countries that we were competing in, which is always, different than a NBC and, the coverage that we're getting here in the US. So, yeah, I'm just going to try to take it all in and, watch whenever I can.
Carli Lloyd, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.